It's Elizabeth R.
It's a little bit like the week's
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, thank you for coming. This is your workshop. I can go in any direction that you want. If you have any personal questions or questions about people that you know that have autoimmune problems, please feel free to ask them. The focus on this is mostly on the thyroid, but whatever I'm saying about the thyroid in this presentation, you can transpose that into any other kind of autoimmune disease. Autoimmune condition. When I say those words, autoimmune, does that make a picture in people's head what that means when I say autoimmune? Okay, I see some head shakes yes, some head shakes no. Okay. Your immune system is the system that's supposed to protect you against the whole world, right? Protects you against viruses and bacteria and fungus and yeast and splinters. That's what your immune system does. It protects you from the whole world. Well, when you have an autoimmune condition going on, what happens is that your immune system, the thing that's supposed to be protecting you against the whole world, is starting to target one of your tissues as an enemy, and it starts to destroy that particular tissue. And what's the only thing that makes an autoimmune have a different name is the tissue that's being attacked. So an autoimmune condition where your immune system is attacking the thyroid is Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. An autoimmune condition where your immune system is attacking the cartilage and the ligaments and the connective tissue is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. An immune system that's targeting the skin might be lupus or psoriasis. An autoimmune condition where your immune system is attacking your substantia nigra, the part of your brain that makes dopamine, is going to cause Parkinson's. An autoimmune disease where your immune system is attacking the nerve tissue is going to be MS. So you get the idea. This is an immune system problem. It's not a problem with the particular organ that's being attacked. That organ that's being attacked just ends up being the victim. Now, that doesn't mean you don't need to support those particular tissues or do things to help the whole complete system that needs one of those tissues. For example, thyroid. If you have an immune system that's destroyed your thyroid gland enough so that you can't make thyroid hormone, well, your eyeballs need thyroid tissue, thyroid hormone. Your brain needs thyroid hormone. Your skin needs thyroid hormone. Everything, your adrenal glands, everything needs thyroid hormone. So if your immune system has finally destroyed your thyroid enough so that you can't make that thyroid hormone, then you need to be taking thyroid hormone. Does that make sense? But you see, the problem is not with the thyroid gland, it's with the immune system that's destroyed. Okay. Yeah.
So if it's destroying or attacking the thyroid, would it attack the thyroid hormone?
It can attack the thyroid hormone itself. It can attack the TPO, the TPO, which is a part that helps you to make T4. It can attack the receptor sites for thyroid. It can attack anything. The immune system can attack the intrinsic factor that helps you to make get vitamin B12 into your body, and that's called pernicious anemia. That's an autoimmune condition. So it can attack a hormone. Some people have an autoimmune condition where their estrogen is being attacked, where their testosterone is being attacked, where a guy's sperm is being attacked. Those can be autoimmune conditions. So, anybody know what this guy is? That's the Pac-Man.
What is it?
That's the Pac-Man. Okay? That's a soldier. That's a macrophage. Macrophages are the things that reach out here and get this bacteria here. So it sends out this little field here and sucks this into it, and what's inside the macrophage is enzymes that help you to digest, the bacteria or the virus or the fungus or whatever it is that the macrophage is attacking. So this can be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on whether it's turned on to attack tissue or it's turned on to attack critters. Now, what's the conventional treatment for treating people with autoimmune conditions?
Drugs.
Well, you have a particular kind of drugs. What they do is they completely suppress the function of your immune system. like
Steroids.
like steroids or methotrexate, which used to be a chemotherapy drug, Plaquenil, Humira, Orencia, all those things. They're immune system suppressors. So sometimes that can be diagnostic for us, because if somebody's condition gets better when they go on steroids, then it's probably an immune condition. It's where the immune system is being suppressed, and so you're not able to attack that particular tissue anymore, so you can have a tendency to get better. And sometimes it's nice to have those. Steroids can be a life-saving thing if you're not breathing too well. We like breathing. Breathing is a good thing. So I'm not going to badmouth all of them, but the function of those things in an autoimmune condition is to squash the function of the immune system, and that leaves you wide open for all kinds of other opportune infections to invade your body because the immune system is completely suppressed. So I got these statistics from, I think I put it down here. Yeah, I got these statistics from the American Autoimmune Related Disease Association. It's a website if you want to go look at this stuff. And, we've got 25.5 million Americans suffer from autoimmune disease, annual cost of $100 billion. And then we got 22 million that suffer with heart disease, $200 billion. Not quite as much spent, about the same amount of people suffer from it, but there's twice as much spent on the heart. Part of that has to do with the cost of the procedures that are used to help people with heart problems, and they're much more technologically advanced and expensive, like heart transplants and catheterizations. And so you're going to get more money spent on this, but this 23.5 million suffer from autoimmune disease. Sometimes people actually have conditions that might be heart-related, and it's actually an immune condition where your immune system's attacking the endothelial tissue, which is the blood vessels. You can have an autoimmune attack on your blood vessels. And suffering with cancer, 9 million suffer with cancer. And so these are the three biggies: heart disease, cancer. Heart disease is the #1 killer in the country. And that brings me to one of the other workshops we're doing, not next week. Yeah, not next week, but the week after. I'm going to be talking about heart disease and cardiovascular problems and elevated cholesterol and natural ways to be able to handle those things. And you're going to get information in those workshops. I think you'll see, with what you're going to be learning tonight, you're going to be getting information at these workshops you're not going to be getting other places, unless you really, really look around for it. So we've got 153 autoimmune diseases, and these are some of them. Some of them we don't even think of as being autoimmune diseases, right? Allergic rhinitis, who would have thunk it? Crohn's disease, MS, Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease starts off as a tick bite, right? But there are triggers to the immune system, and sometimes these tick bites, the bacteria that gets liberated into your system, spirochetes, actually spur your immune system to start looking at other tissues as the enemy. One of my patients is he's probably number 4 in the world in the Ironman races, 100-mile races, and swim 5 miles or whatever it is, bike 100 miles. And this poor man is a shell of what he used to be because of Lyme's disease. And it's affected his heart, and his musculoskeletal tissues, and his brain. So it can be all-encompassing. Now, one of the other things you want to keep in mind is with autoimmune diseases, if you have an autoimmune disease in one part of your body, you're usually going to have it someplace else. So it's very common. You'll see in the literature, if you go into the literature and you look at, you can punch in Hashimoto's and celiac disease, or Hashimoto's and pernicious anemia. one of the places you can go to look at these things PubMed.com. Now, PubMed.com is the website that's the repository of research, medical research, and it's held by this is the website for the National Institute for Health. So this is not just like going on Google and punching in something and getting an opinion that can go both ways, depending on what somebody's trying to sell you. This is the actual research on there. You can, and some of them you can print out the whole research document and look at it. So it's a pretty good resource. So one of the first things that I want to do to kind of give you a little background is to go through the healthy response of the immune system, okay? So we're going to look over here at this as the critter. Okay, the critter is going to be the thing that invades your tissues, and virus, bacteria, fungus, yeast, and it starts to cause problems in your body, right? Well, now your immune system is going to mount a response to the critter. So when I talk about critter, that's what we're talking about, okay? Can we use critter?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So what happens is the critter comes in, now your immune system, that macrophage that you saw, natural killer cells, they start to attack the critter. And now you've got this battle going on with your immune system and against the critter. And that battle causes this thing here called the APC. It's called the antigen presenting cell. The critter is an antigen. So this is the antigen presenting cell. Now, a lot of the parlance in autoimmune descriptions are in military terms, because it's kind of like a battle. So you can think of this APC as the scout. Okay, the scout is out there, and the scout's job is to, you know, look at what's going on and get the information and radio it back to the command module. Here's the command module. These T helper cells, that's the command module. Now the T helper cells have the information from what kind of critter is this going on here, how virulent is it, how many of them are there, and the information gets back to the command module, the T helper cells, and so the T helper cells send out other signals to this part of your immune system. This part of your immune system here is called the Th1 system. Okay, just so we have some terms that we can talk about. This side here is the Th1 system, and this side here is the Th2 system. Okay. So, and they have different functions. So the Th1 systems, those are mostly like the soldiers. They go in there and they do battles, so you're going to get these T cells here that are going to, they'll have different names like different interleukins, interleukin 2, tumor necrosing factor, interferon, the natural killer cells. Those are all part of this Th1 system, and they all go and they start converging on the critter. Now, this system works really great for bacteria and fungus and yeast, those types of things. It doesn't work so well with viruses. Because viruses are really, really, really tiny, really small. So they can't, these soldiers here don't do a very great job of doing that. But you got the information over here based on this battle to know that it is viruses. So your T helper cells can send a signal over here to the B cells. Now the B cells, what they do is they make antibodies. So it's specific for what's this battle, it's making antibodies to this critter over here. And so what happens is these antibodies, they make like a they kind of surround the virus with marker cells. You know, so what happens? Why viruses are so deadly is what they do is they get inside the cells. They're not in like floating around in the blood. They're inside the cells, and when they're in the cells, you can't really get at them. So these antibodies, they mark the cells that have the viruses in them. So these guys over here can be like ready out there, okay, we're going to wait you, we're going to get you when you come out. So what happens is viruses, they burst open, and they're inside the cell multiplying, and then they breaks open, and they go and they start to infect other cells. So when you get, so these, once the antibodies have marked the cells, then they can just be waiting there till if the cell breaks open, then they can go get them. So kind of a neat system. It works together. So now we've vanquished the foe. We've killed it. Let me just say a little bit on the viruses again. Viruses, a lot of times the life cycle in our body is that we feel really lousy for the first few days, don't we? And then you start to feel better. Why? Because it takes a while to make the antibodies to get these critters over here. So you're gonna suffer for a few days, and you know that's pretty much it with viruses. There's not many things pharmaceutically that we can do to help viruses. We know that antibiotics don't work against viruses, right? They'll work very well against bacteria if you hit the right antibiotic for that particular critter, and a lot of the critters have developed resistances to the antibiotics, so it's really difficult to do that sometimes unless you hit it with a big gun. So now we've got the critter is vanquished and the battle is over. Everything's cool, everything's fine. What happens now, we get these regulatory cells, and they do kind of like what they sound like. They help to balance the system a little bit, and it sends a signal over here to these T suppressor cells, which kind of sound like what they do. They suppress these T helper cells from sending out signals up here and sending out signals here, so that's what these T suppressor cells do. And that's the normal healthy response. Okay? Now, in an autoimmune condition, this critter ends up being what? Tissue.
What was that?
Tissue. Tissue. Thyroid, brain, kidneys, heart, skin, intrinsic factor, hormones, whatever. You're going to have this critter is a tissue, your self-tissue. So now you've got this immune response where your soldiers are attacking the critter because you've got an immune system that's run amok. It's educated to start going after the critter, which is your tissue.
Right.
We're talking about thyroid mostly tonight. Again, where I'm saying about thyroid, you can transpose it to another autoimmune disease, okay? Now, how does this happen? Because we can have an overactive Th1 system, or we can have an overactive Th2 system. And so you're clear that this Th2 system is the one that helps to build up the antibodies in the system, and the Th1 system is the one that helps to build up the soldiers, the macrophages, and all the warriors to go in there and do battle. When we take conventional steroids or the immune suppressors, what they do is they suppress the function of the Th1 system and the Th2 system. So you're not making soldiers, and you're not making antibodies either. Now, if the critter that's being attacked is your tissue, you're going to feel better, right? Because this critter, the tissue, your thyroid, your nervous system, nerve tissue isn't being attacked anymore because you've suppressed the function of your immune system with the steroids, right? There are some natural substances that actually drive this Th1 system, and there's different natural substances that will drive this Th2 system. And so if you can find out whether this is a part of your immune system that's overacting, or this one is a part of the immune system that's overacting, then you can more target your treatment towards calming down one or building up the other one. So some natural substances that will drive this system over here are things like echinacea and astragalus and golden seal and maitake mushrooms and pomegranate. Those are all things that have been shown in the literature to be able to boost the system, boost this Th1 system. And there's other substances over here that will drive and build up the function of this Th2 system. Things that you can use that will help that system are things like green tea extract, pycnogenol, pine tree bark, grapeseed extract, resveratrol. Those are all things that have been shown to help boost the function of this Th2 system here. So if you had an immune attack on your thyroid that was caused by an overactive Th1 system, and you gave this person echinacea and golden seal and maitake mushrooms and pomegranate, those types of things, what's going to happen?
Well, it sounds like that would cause it to be overactive, and then it would...
Yes, it'll make you worse.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, it'll make you worse. Okay. So, yeah, you don't want to give somebody the wrong thing.
Right.
So, all of those things will have been shown to boost this system over here and dampen this one a little bit. So if you had a Th2 dominance, then it would make sense to take this stuff, wouldn't it? The echinacea and the golden seal and the maitake mushroom, all that kind of stuff, because it's going to boost this one up and help to dampen this one. Sometimes people that are Th2 dominant, they have a really bad reaction when they drink coffee. Because coffee, green tea extracts, caffeine can be a booster for that Th2 system. So sometimes that's a little bit diagnostic for me. People tell me that, yeah, everybody kept telling me I need to get out of the health food store and get some echinacea and golden seal and astragalus, and it's going to boost your immune system, and they take it and they feel horrible because they're autoimmune. A regular, viral infection that's not autoimmune, those things can be very helpful because astragalus has been shown to interfere with that life cycle of the viruses. It can be very helpful for that. But if it's an autoimmune condition where the thing that's being attacked is your tissue, and this is overfiring, the echinacea and the golden seal and the astragalus is going to be pretty bad for you. So you want to take these things that help boost this system over here.
So you want to take like the green tea on the other side? Is that what...
Depends.
Yeah, how do you know?
You do a blood test.
Okay.
You do a blood test. So yeah, because you can test for, this Th1 system, like I said, there's a whole bunch of, like the natural killer, you can test the blood for how many natural killer cells you got. And there's a range that you're supposed to be in. There's interleukin 2, and there's interleukin 12, and interferon, and so there's other substances over here that you can test in the blood to see whether they're being produced too much. If they are, it's probably too much. You're probably a Th1 dominant person. Now, if you do a blood test and it shows that there's these other things, the interleukin 4, 5, 6, 13, 10, interleukin 10, all those interleukins, and you'll see them abbreviated. You'll see them abbreviated IL-2, IL-6, IL-4, 5, 10, 12, 13, 17. But those are inflammatory substances that actually help you to fight infections. And when they get to be too much, then they actually cause damage to tissue also. As a matter of fact, interleukin 6 is one that's been shown, which is comes from this system over here, Th2, has been shown to cause people to have heart problems and osteoporosis and mental degeneration. So IL-6 can be a very inflammatory substance sometimes.
can be what for them? Detrimental?
Inflammatory, yeah.
Oh.
Too much. I mean, they're there because they kill things. They kill cells. They kill critters. Well, if your critter is tissue, then that's not such a great thing, is it?
Right.
So they have to be. It's about a balance. There's not saying any of these things, the natural killer cells or the interleukins 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 13, 17, whatever, are bad. It's just when they get out of balance and then they start to cause problems. Now, if somebody has an autoimmune condition, there's two things that you have to have because they will boost the function of these regulatory cells. Now, the regulatory cells have an ability to be able to balance this overfiring of these different aspects of the immune system. So the two things you want to use are, I think it's here, yeah. You want to use vitamin D. Vitamin D is a very important nutrient for your immune system. Now the recommended daily allowance for vitamin D is about 400 milligrams, 400 international units, 400 IUs. Now 400 IUs, that's what we put vitamin D in milk now, don't we?
Yes.
We have for years. Because it's been shown to be very helpful to keep people from getting rickets. Now, let me give you a perspective on how much vitamin D is an appropriate dose for somebody. 400 milligrams will keep you from getting rickets, and that's a nice thing. Okay, but there are. I'd look really funny up here like that, wouldn't it? The research one here. What they've found so far is about 3,000 genes that are turned on by the key that's vitamin D, and so vitamin D is more a hormone than it is a vitamin. And it's very, like I say, very important for the immune system. So 400 IUs is not going to really be an amount that's sufficient to turn on all of these processes that we might have to have turned on, these different genetic programming that we have. So if you go down to the beach in your thong bathing suit, and what?
You don't know us, I don't think.
All right. So the point is, you go down there, you got full body exposure, and you do 10 minutes on this side, and you flip over and you do 10 minutes on the other side. You make 10,000 IUs of vitamin D in 20 minutes. So it's not an overdose to take like 6,000 IUs a day. If you go to a conventional medicine doctor and they see that you have a vitamin D deficiency, they're going to give you 50,000 IUs all in one shot. So 50,000 IUs a week, or taking 6,000 IUs a day is, about the same amount. It's about the same dose, right? 48,000. But I like the idea of taking it a little bit more gradually and on a more steady basis.
Why not just go outside?
Well, that's the way it should be, right?
Yeah.
I think it should be that way too. But I check people here in Florida, and I have to say 85% of the people that I've tested are low in vitamin D.
Well, it's sort of a national epidemic now.
It really is.
What's causing it?
Who knows? One of the 84,000 chemicals that we're exposed to now that never had anything to do with the human environment.
And now we're so programmed to protect yourself from sunscreen.
Yeah, using sunscreen is going
Hats
to
and long
completely
sleeves and
nullify your ability to be able to make vitamin D through your skin.
I don't know if I'm mistaken in this. I thought I heard an article about you would think that people of color would not have an issue, and they have the worst issue with
They do.
vitamin D.
Well, they do. Because if your skin is darker, I checked myself on vitamin D. I was low in vitamin D. I was when I did it, I was riding around in a convertible all the time. I never used sunscreen, and I was low in vitamin D.
Oh, so.
I don't know, maybe because I'm Italian. I don't know, dark skin. Maybe as we age, we don't assimilate it as easily as we used to.
Right.
So there are many different reasons why. I think a major part of it has to do with the environment being changed. You can't have you can't have so many autoimmune conditions that have reared their ugly head in the last 15 years or so, and have it be something in our chemistry that's faulty. It has to be some environmental components that are going on. We're going to go through some of the reasons why there is such an epidemic of it, but part of it is definitely environmental. And the other one is antioxidants. You want to get a good dose of antioxidants. The main antioxidants in our system are glutathione and SOD. Those are the things that we produce. But you can take these things as supplements too, glutathione and SOD. You can get them in blueberries and fruits and those types of things. But to get a sufficient amount of antioxidants to handle an autoimmune condition, you'd have to eat like a box of blueberries 3 times a day to get a good dose of antioxidants. Go ahead. I'm ready.
No, I for breakfast I have at least a good handful, and later I feed my dog blueberries too. She loves them.
Yeah.
Now it will make your stool a little harder, but so far I think we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do that with cottage cheese.
Yeah, great. Well, maybe you don't have an autoimmune disease.
I don't know. I'm listening in. I may have something that I never knew I had. So.
But if you have an autoimmune disease, you want to
Yes.
think of it as you want to get a good dose of these
Yes.
these two
Yes.
substances here, and
Yes.
these things are not overdoses, and I'm really
Well,
kidding.
what do you mean boxes? I mean, do you tarp pints or do you tarp boxes with the pints are
No,
coming
you have
in?
to eat a box of
The pints,
blueberries.
pints.
Yeah, the
Okay,
pints.
but 3 would be sufficient a
Um,
day, sort of like to meet any, level.
I like to use the creams. Cream is much easier than you get sick of eating blueberries every day, wouldn't you?
I love blueberries.
Yeah, I like doing it
So
the
do
natural
I.
way myself.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, glutathione and SOD are natural. They're not
Yes.
chemicalized.
Yes.
What they're able to do now is use a cream delivery system that allows you to get a really big dose of antioxidants into your skin.
Uh-huh.
When I say into your skin, it gets directly into your bloodstream. Now, the thing about eating the blueberries is you're not going to get all of it because it has to transit your digestive system. You're going to lose some of it in that dietary transport. So the cream delivery is a really good way to get a dose where you're not going to lose it in the digestive system.
See, okay.
Yeah. So everybody okay with what antioxidants are?
Yes, but are you getting those someplace, like a health food store, or?
I'm not sure. They might have it. I use stuff here that I have creams that I use for people that have really high doses of glutathione and SODs.
And so how do you know if your dosage in your own body is high enough?
You can test that too.
Through
Yeah.
Blood test.
You can test. You
Blood
can
profile.
test everything in your blood.
Yeah, true.
There's life in your blood.
Yeah.
Is adrenal cortisol syndrome also an autoimmune?
Can be, yeah. Yeah, Cushing's disease. Cushing's disease is autoimmune, and I'll give you the other one. The one that Kennedy had. Kennedy had an autoimmune disease with his adrenal glands. It's escaping me right now. But one is elevated adrenal glands, and the other one is low adrenal glands. Cushing's disease is elevated, pumping out too much cortisol, and you can get heart conditions from that, all kinds of nasty things. But,
So if you have Crohn's and pernicious anemia,
yeah.
they're more likely to have something like Hirschman's?
Yeah, like I say, if you've got one autoimmune condition in one part of your body, you probably have it someplace else. And it runs in families too.
Yes.
Autoimmune diseases run in families, and it doesn't have to be the same autoimmune problem. One person in a family has Hashimoto's, another one has MS, and another one in the same family has Crohn's disease. It can be, but you get the idea, it's the same
Right.
process, it's just a different tissue that's being attacked.
Yes. I have one quick question,
Yeah.
and then I keep quiet for a while. Condom water, which it gives you, it works like antioxidant if you get it fresh out of the machine. Have you heard about that, how that
Yes.
plays into that?
Yeah. I don't know, do you think there's something wrong with the idea that if you put this water, you drink this Kangen water and you leave it out for a couple of hours, it's not gonna work as good?
That's right,
Yeah.
it has to be right fresh.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
do you think it's reasonable that you should be able to develop some kind of a disease, a problem? You're on this planet, and however you want to say you got here, you're on this planet, and it doesn't make sense that you will be developing conditions on this planet that can't be fixed by something that's out there in the environment to be able to help you fix it.
No, I think there are answers out there.
They're already out, they've been out there forever.
I know, right.
Kangen water, you're not gonna get Kangen water out in, I'm talking about, you put yourself into the environment of being a primitive person. You're not gonna be able to develop problems as a primitive person that you shouldn't be able to take care of with the things that are in the environment. Kangen water, back when you were a primitive person, didn't exist.
That's correct.
So,
Is it manufactured?
yeah,
What
it is, yeah.
Yeah, what is it? I've never heard of it.
They ionize it, they do all kinds of things with a special Kangen machine that you can get for a few $1,000s. And actually, and if you get somebody else to get the machine too, you can get a kickback on what it is.
But that is,
Multi-level
you
marketing.
know what, no, you have to be careful with that, how you word that. That is not true presentation. If you have a good product, sometimes they just want to keep it inside,
Right.
you see. I know my husband laughed about it, he said that's another pyramid gimmick. But I told him, because I was in business, and I said, if I was having a really terrific product, that's how I would market my product.
Great.
And I would sell it, I would, reward my employees before I put it on Target, and then it gets so shoddy, you see what I'm saying? So I don't know, there's different, you come to the medical field, I'm more like investment business, and I would probably handle it the same way,
Right.
inside sales. All I wanted to know is it helpful, or is it
Harmful.
harmful?
I don't know.
From what you know. If you do not have enough information, if I was in your shoes, I probably would say, you know what, whatever.
I have enough information that
Yes.
I don't want to bother with it.
Okay,
Because
good.
Because it doesn't make sense to me that I need to drink this water within 2 hours or it's not valid anymore.
I respect your point of view.
Anything else? Antioxidants? Oh, let me kind of give you a little picture of what, because people are talking about antioxidants and they're talking about free radicals, because antioxidants are the treatment for free radicals. And free radicals, if we look at this, this is carbon. Okay, this is a carbon atom, which has 6 protons in there, 6 neutrons. I'm picking carbon because we're carbon, right? Okay. So and we're looking at this at an atomic level, right? Okay. So you got 6 protons in there, and you got 6 neutrons. That means you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 electrons floating around there, all around there. We've seen the atoms going around like that, right? The electrons. Okay. Here's what a free radical is. You only got 5 out there. So what happens? This atom goes over here and it steals an electron from this atom here. Now this one's short and it goes over here and it steals an electron from this atom. Okay. And then it just keeps on going like this. So this chain reaction, how this chain reaction shows up in the physical body is tissue destruction. Wrinkles, broken down cartilage, arthritis, you know, tissue breakdown, diseases, disease processes. So, how do we fix this whole thing? We fix this by taking antioxidants. Because what antioxidants do, they supply the electron. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? So, you know, so when somebody starts talking to you about antioxidants and free radicals, and they really don't know what antioxidants and free radicals are in the big picture, you remember this picture here, you're gonna know exactly what they're talking about, even if they don't. So you want to be able to have enough antioxidants to be able to help with the tissue destruction from the tissue destruction that's happening because of all of these processes going on with your immune system attacking tissue. Because the tissue that's destroyed is actually going to cause free radicals in the system too. That's part of the reason that people have these fluctuating symptoms up and down with autoimmune conditions is, and we use the thyroid because it's a good example. So your immune system goes in and makes an attack on your thyroid gland and kills some thyroid tissue. That tissue that's been destroyed has hormones in it, and it liberates those hormones into the bloodstream, and you get hyperthyroid symptoms. And you use up those thyroid hormones, and now you got less tissue there, and you start to get hypo symptoms. And then you get another attack, and you get liberate hormones into your blood, and you feel all jazzed up again. So you get these fluctuating up and down symptoms. And I'll show you one of my patients that actually made me create this whole workshop. I'll tell you about her. We had these fluctuating up and down symptoms. So, how fortuitous. This is the slide that I was just talking about. So, here's my patient that comes to see me. She's been taking Synthroid for 20 years and comes to see me, and she's got all the symptoms. Whoops. All the symptoms of low thyroid, high elevated thyroid. You got high palpitations, inward trembling, increased pulse rate, nervous and emotional, insomnia, night sweats, difficulty gaining weight, and she fluctuates with hyposymptoms. Tired, sluggish, hands and feet cold, require excessive amounts of sleep to function properly, increase in weight gain even on a low-calorie diet. Those are the people that come to say, I eat like a bird, I exercise like a maniac, I can't lose any weight. You know, I'm going to check the thyroid. Gain weight easily, difficult and frequent bowel movements, depression, lack of motivation, morning headaches that wear off as the day progresses, outer third of the eyebrows thinned out, kind of like mine. Thinning of the hair on the scalp, the face, genitals, hair excessively falling, dry skin, scalp, mental sluggishness. So fluctuating symptoms. These are fluctuating symptoms. She's got all, my checkoff sheet, I have this, and she checked them all up, both of them. So when I see that, and you've been on thyroid medication for 20 years, and you've got all these thyroid symptoms, something's not working, right? So the blood test, and again, it's a simple blood test. It doesn't cost a lot. If you're suspecting that you have an autoimmune condition going on with your thyroid, you're going to get your TPO antibodies checked, and you're going to get your anti-thyroglobulin antibodies checked. And the range for those should be between 0 and 34 for the TPO antibodies, and it should be between 0 and 40 for the anti-thyroglobulin antibodies. So I sent her to get the blood work. Nobody's ever done this in 20 years. Nobody did this for her. And her blood test comes back, and this one was 2360, and this one was 1,000.
Who would continue giving her thyroid medication without doing blood work every year?
They don't check this stuff.
They don't.
I'll tell you.
It's easier to get someone a prescription.
Oh, where do you hear the rest of the story? So So you know what's happening here, right? With these numbers, every day her immune system is destroying her thyroid gland. And the way this game is going to be played with her, until she can see me, is that her numbers, her thyroid numbers, they're going to check her thyroid numbers and keep her TSH and her T4 hormone in balance all the way up until the time she has to have her thyroid taken out.
Wow.
Because you see, this is what I'm talking about. This is not a thyroid problem. This is an
Right.
immune system problem. You got it? So, as it happened, you know, that day, a neighbor of hers who's a DO, way down Hope Sound or something like that, sent her to see me, and he was coming in for a treatment that night. And I said, "Oh, Jeff, man, I got these results back for, you know, her. And look at this. Oh, you know what she took these and showed them to her endocrinologist. Her endocrinologist said, I'll see you in 6 months.
What did he say?
I'll see you in 6 months.
Right. Why?
This is what made me start doing this workshop and doing this kind of work. Those type of people, I used to refer those people out, autoimmune people, partially for liability reasons, and she came back and told me that, I'll see you in 6 months. I said, I can't do that anymore. These people aren't going to get any help at all.
Right.
Because, so Jeff, the DO, they go to medical school, they get a different kind of degree, but they're MDs pretty much. They just prescribe drugs and everything. A little bit more holistically oriented. I said, Jeff, look at these numbers, and their endocrinologist said, I'll see you in 6 months. And he said, yep, that's what we went to medical school. You know, you just keep the numbers in balance until it's time to take the thyroid out.
Right.
And
That's
that's it.
not balance.
Oh, it's
No.
not dangerous.
That's
There really isn't a lot of respect for even asking someone to ask for the test. I mean, I just went through this with my mom,
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the medical people in my family, nurses are like, she doesn't need a test on hormones.
Yeah, I know. And I used to have, you know, relationships with, you know, some of the endocrinologists in town here. And then they just stopped. They had an office meeting and, you know, weren't going to take any more referrals from anybody outside the practice. So I couldn't send my people over there because I had to send my patients over to the endocrinologist to get their thyroid hormone. You need, you know, like I say, I'm not a drug person, but if you've got a thyroid that's being destroyed, you need to have thyroid hormone. I can't prescribe thyroid hormone. Now, if you're going to take thyroid hormone, then it would certainly make sense if you had to take thyroid hormone to take a more bioidentical thyroid hormone instead of a synthetic one, right? Like Synthroid. Synthroid is kind of like what it sounds like. It's synthetic thyroid. Because you want to, so does that make sense that you would take a more bioidentical hormone instead of, I mean, so there's only 3 of them. And there are pharmaceuticals, you have to get them by prescription. There's Nature-Throid, there's West-Throid, and there's Armour Thyroid.
So then why aren't people offered those? I mean, I take Synthroid, I have for 10 years. Nobody
It's-
ever told me
It's not the standard of care.
there's bioidentical.
Yeah, I know. It's not the standard of care that's done now. The rap is that they're not standardized enough, and they are very standardized. They have an exact ratio in there that your thyroid pumps out. Go ahead.
Sir, I've watched just 2 weeks ago the movie Doctors. I don't know if you heard about it, but the pharmaceutical companies are so powerful that they're actually paying doctors off big time.
Yeah.
Doctors are, excuse my word, are being coerced to the pharmaceutical companies for big kickbacks, and they're prescribing drugs, so you are hooked up for life.
I don't know. I can't think it's that insidious with all the doctors that are out there prescribing that stuff. Many of the doctors are out there doing, I mean,
They don't.
they're doing the best they can with the tools that they have.
Absolutely.
And they're being educated by the drug companies a lot of times, and they take that information, and the drug companies make a very cogent argument for what it is that they're trying to sell, you know, have the doctors prescribe for people.
You're being kind. You're being very
Yeah.
kind.
The reason I brought up the, and Barb knows this, the cortisone adrenal thing, is
Yeah.
that my mother just recently died. And nobody could find anything wrong with her, except they kept feeding her blood pressure medication. That if in fact the problem was, and now I found verification that she did have an immune, and hormonal imbalance.
Yeah, she had Cushing.
If she was being treated with the blood pressure, which is a standard procedure, because they
Yeah.
don't pay attention to that, it's actually poisoning you. It's guaranteed to eventually kill you, because it's doing exactly the opposite of what adrenal and cortisone would, fixing that would do.
Right.
And it's just because the medical industry, it sounds like you're saying that when someone goes to med school, they just don't even learn about or pay any attention to the hormonal imbalance.
I can't say they don't pay attention to it, and, I'm actually doing it backwards. I always said that if I had all this stuff to do all over again, I would have gone to medical school first, and, but I'd still be doing what I'm doing now. So I'm doing it backwards now. I've been doing acupuncture for 28 years. I'm at medical school now, so I'm actually in third year medical school. So I'm almost finished now. I got just some rotations to do right now. So I've done the education, and it's like this. You do a module in respiratory, you do a module in endocrinology, you do a module in immune system, you do a module in gastroenterology, you do a module in neurology, and there's no communication while you're doing those modules that you, and then what happens when you get out of medical school, you do what? You specialize. So the endocrinologist isn't talking to the gastroenterologist, the gastroenterologist isn't talking to the neurologist, the neurologist isn't talking to the urologist. There's no communication between those things. And so you'll take care of your little part of the body, and then, okay, you've got this problem going on, I need to spend you to this other specialist over here. But you can see with an autoimmune problem that can be all pervasive and attacking different systems, you have to have a more comprehensive picture of what's going on, because the body is an integrated entity. It's okay. That's your brain. Okay. These are neurons here. We've got one neuron here for all these glial cells. For every one neuron, you have 10 of these glial cells. When we talk about the brain, we're talking about these guys, neurons, right? Help you to think and cogitate and move and smell and touch and taste and feel and, move. That's the nervous system, right? That's this guy over here, the neurons. The other 10 parts of your brain are glial cells. Glial cells are immune cells. They help your brain fight against infections. You can come and get the brain. Well, just to bring that full circle here, all of these neurons, have hormone receptor sites. All of these glial cells have hormone receptor sites. So if you have something that's going on with the glial cells, it's going to affect the nervous system. It's also going to affect the hormonal system. If you have something that's going on with your nervous system, it's going to affect your immune system. It's also going to affect the hormonal system. If you've got something going on out of imbalance in the hormonal system, it's going to affect your nervous system. It's going to affect your immune system. Matter of fact, some of the major symptoms that women have in menopause are because the sudden drop in hormone fires up this immune system cascade that doesn't stop. It just keeps on going. This immune system gets activated by the sudden drop of estrogens. So a lot of the symptoms that you get from menopause really don't have to do with hormones, right? Mental fogginess, the aches and pains that you get, those aren't hormone balance, those are immune system imbalances. it's, the hormone, it's a degeneration of the nervous system, and it's a firing up of the immune system to start attacking tissue. So anyway, she's doing really good now.
Good.
I found out she was Th2, she was Th2 dominant. I gave her some things to help build up the Th1 system, and she's doing fine. So there's the other one we were talking about. No, that was Graves' disease. Anyway, Graves' disease is a disease of overfiring immune system attacking the thyroid gland. It's overactive thyroid. The Hashimoto's is underactive thyroid with an autoimmune attack. And the thing you would use to check for Graves' disease would be the TSH, or sometimes I call it the TSI antibody. So anyway, those are simple blood tests that you can get. You can check those things. Yeah.
So when you found this out, did you immediately take her off the thyroid medication and then give her?
I can't do that, again, because think about it. She's got an autoimmune condition that's destroying her thyroid gland. I can't just take her off the thyroid medication that her brain needs thyroid hormone, her ovaries need thyroid hormone, her eyeballs need thyroid hormone, her other tissues need thyroid hormone. If it's been destroyed sufficiently, but you see, the reason that I had to treat her was what? I had to do something to calm down the immune system. So yeah, and now there's one case that you can, one case where it's going to be much better for you to take the synthetic thyroid hormone, and that would be if you had an autoimmune condition that was actually attacking the thyroid hormone itself, T4 or T3. You take Armour, you take Westroid, you take Nature's-Throid, the three natural pharmaceutical hormones by prescription. And if you have an immune system that's attacking T4 and T3, they're going to be worse. They do a little bit better on the synthetic one,
Right.
because your immune system is saying, I don't know, it looks a little bit like T4, but not quite. Okay, you're cool, I'll leave you alone. But if you're having an attack on the tissue, on that hormone itself, then it's useful to use the synthetic one. Yeah.
Doctor, I think most doctors out there, they don't even have the time to go to that level of depth to figure it out. What is?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say they don't know it. It's just I don't think they just put it together.
Right.
And it's pretty mechanicalized.
Yes.
You look at the blood work, and it says your TSH is elevated. Okay, I need to put you on Synthroid. I need to put you on levothyroxine. I need to put you on
That's
Levoxin.
all it is.
And we can do that. We can keep your thyroid, numbers in balance, but you got to check deeper. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on the thyroid, because we're kind of focusing on that. But if you get your, here's how your thyroid works. I don't think I have it in this presentation. Let me see. It would be really cool if I did. I think I might have put it in there. Yes, I did. All right, good. All right, this is you. Okay, so here's the way this works. The white here is blood, okay? The white is blood. All these glands are making hormones. They're pumping hormones into the blood. And this one's saying, hey, I need some thyroid hormone, sends me some thyroid hormone. And so you get the thyroid hormone, it comes in here and it goes to wherever it needs to go to. All these lines here, those lines are all two-way lines. If you got something that's going on with one of these guys, it's going to affect the other one. Now, this pituitary gland up here is a master gland. Okay? Actually, everything starts up here, but I'll start with the pituitary here, okay? Pituitary, well, let's look at a low thyroid. The thyroid is not functioning well enough. You're not making enough thyroid hormone. So T4 is the main hormone. So your thyroid is going to be pumping out about 93% of the T4, and about 3%, about 7% is going to be T3. Now the interesting thing is that the active thyroid hormone is T3. T3 is the active high thyroid hormone. Now, your T4 downstream is actually going to convert into T3, the usable thyroid hormone. So even though it only makes 3% of it, 7% of it, later on downstream you're going to convert most of your T4 into the T3, which is the active thyroid hormone. That's why you're getting Synthroid, which is T4, with the thought that that T4 is going to end up getting converted downstream into T3, and so everything's going to be cool. Well, sometimes people have a problem with this conversion process from T4 into the T3. There's this little step in here. Sometimes there's a blockage in there, and you're not converting it into T3. So what happens if you don't have enough T4 coming out of here? The T4 goes up here to the pituitary, and the pituitary region says, you don't have enough T4 coming out of here. You need to get to work. Get to work. Get to work. So this is the thyroid stimulating hormone. TSH. That's the main hormone that they check when they check you for your thyroid. That's the main one that they go by. And that doesn't come from your thyroid gland, it comes from your pituitary gland, which is like right up here. And that sends a little signal down to your thyroid gland, says get to work. So if you got a low thyroid, not enough output coming out of here, then your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is going to be elevated. Make sense? You get this reverse feedback system here. Not enough coming out of here, then that's going to be jacked up. So if you have a low thyroid, you're going to see your TSH is elevated. So let's throw let's put another iron in there. You got this other guy called reverse T3. Reverse T3 is completely inactive. And so this is another scenario that I see. And as you were talking about, they don't order these things, and they sometimes say, you don't need that stuff. Well, you really need to know what your reverse T3 is, and not a lot of people order it. It's a cheap test. It's not expensive. You can make it part of your regular thyroid panel. Because if you got okay, that's your blood, right? And the blood's got T3 in it, T4 and T3, and it's got vitamins, and it's got glucose, and it's got minerals, and it's got other hormones in there. And we're talking about reverse T3 here, so we'll put that up there. What's in your blood is not really that important. What's really important is what's getting inside the cell in the body. That's what's important. So your cells all have these little they have these little receptor sites on the cells that are very specific for anything that's in your blood that the cell decides that it needs. So it's going to increase the sensitivity of that receptor site to say, hey, I need some calcium here. I need some calcium in here. So the calcium receptor site sucks in some calcium from the blood and gets into the cell. Now you're going to be able to use that calcium. What's in your blood is not as important as what's in the cell. So your cell is really kind of like a clam that sits on the bottom of the ocean, and the clams get their feeding by doing what? They open up and the seawater comes in and floats by, and they suck out of the seawater what they need for nutrients. That's kind of like what this is. So we're talking about T3 here. So let's say this is the T3 receptor site, and your cell says, hey, I need some T3. So it sucks the T3 out of the blood, gets into your cell, everybody's happy, right? if you've got too much of this stuff here, reverse T3 that's completely inactive, what ends up happening is this reverse T3, it sucks up that receptor-site. It takes it, you know, it eats up that receptor-site so that the T3 doesn't get into your cell. Now that looks in your blood work. If you don't check this one, you could have beautiful TSH, you got a beautiful T4, you got a beautiful T3, everything is great, and you still have thyroid symptoms. What's going on, doc? Well, it can be because you've got too much reverse T3 in your system. That can get jacked up because you have low iron, you have low ferritin, you have excess cortisol floating around in your blood, or you have not enough cortisol. That can affect your T3, your reverse T3 output and make it too high, so your active thyroid T3 is not going to be able to get in the cell, and you'll have beautiful blood work if you don't check the reverse T3, and you're going to have thyroid symptoms.
So who do you go to get all of these tests and know that you're getting all the tests?
Well, if you know this stuff now, you've got ammunition here. You can tell the doctor, I want to check my reverse T3, I want to check my T3, I want to check my free T4, free T3, I want to check my antibodies. And if they don't want to do it, then you go see somebody else.
Right.
I order it on people regularly.
If you ask for it, they will give it to you
Maybe.
most of the time.
Maybe not.
No, I've had my own,
You ask for
recently I
reverse
had
T.
a physical and I said, did you check, oh, we don't do that test, you don't need that test.
But if you
Hormonal
are
levels.
being really firm about it, or you change your doctor relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that. I wouldn't burn bridges though, because if you need thyroid hormone, you're gonna have to have it in there
That's right.
to get your thyroid hormone. But yeah, there are tests. You got, is it up here? This is a really beautiful book. It's kind of like, maybe probably more detail than what I'm doing up here. And it's kind of like says it all. Why do I still have thyroid symptoms when all my lab tests are normal?
Yes, this is right.
And it's a beautiful book.
Is it here all the time?
I think I have some. They're $20 a piece.
Okay.
So you get the idea. This is how implicated, complicated it is. Here's the thymus gland. The thymus gland, that T that you see on the T helper cells and the TH1, TH2. That's the T stands for thymus. Thymus is right in the center of your chest here. It's main, and that's interesting. One of the major things that they will do, I don't think they do it as much anymore. One of the things that they can do if you have an autoimmune attack, your immune system's attacking your tissue, they remove your thymus gland. Yeah, just take the thymus gland out so you don't make any more of those T4, T3s.
What do you think of that?
How?
No, I thought they were removing, because I know somebody that had,
Yeah.
it's been a long time ago, they removed his spleen.
Spleen is part of the immune system too. So
Yeah.
that, I don't know if they did some tests to determine if that was what they needed to do. But a thymectomy is, standard procedure. Yeah.
If you have a thyroid deficiency or imbalance, does that then whack all the other ones out of shape? Like does the
Sure.
adrenal gland then suffer from that, and then everything suffers because every one thing's out of balance?
Yeah, if one of these guys, like I say, if one of these guys is out of balance, then it's going to affect because all the other ones are going to be working extra hard to try and make up for the deficiencies of the other ones. Yeah. So yeah, you can. It gets to be this detective thing. Which one do you fix first? And I can tell you what will drive any one of these whole systems nuts. Like that brain thing that I had up there, you have the hormones and the immune system and the nervous system. What will drive any one of those guys nuts is blood sugar imbalances. If you got low blood sugar, you got high blood sugar, it's going to fire up your immune system, it's going to fire up your nervous system, it's going to fire up your hormonal system to be out of balance. It goes over here, pancreas. Right? Okay, so I think I skipped one here. That one. So here's some of the things that the thyroid gland controls. Red blood cells, so you have anemia. Anemia can be affected by thyroid not working right. Protein metabolism, thyroid plays a role in there. Lipids. Of all the reasons for people having elevated cholesterol, number one is insulin resistance or diabetes. The second one is low thyroid. If you have low thyroid, you're going to have elevated cholesterol. And I've seen it over and over. I get people who come in, they have elevated cholesterol, they got hypothyroid, I get the thyroid working better, the cholesterol goes down by itself. Because I have stuff that I can give people to lower their cholesterol, but if I do that, I'm going to be in the same bag as everybody else. It's just treating lab values. You can treat the person that has the symptoms, or you can treat the symptoms that somebody has. Those are two different things, right? Or you can treat the lab numbers, which is the worst thing you can do. You have to try and put it together and treat the person that's having the problem. But the beauty of lab tests is that it gives you some kind of a yardstick to know that you're moving in the right direction. Again, not to just give somebody the hormone, now I can check the hormone level. Well, yeah, it's because you took the hormone. How about working on a gland that was supposed to make those hormones, so you're making the hormone by yourself, and then check the hormone level. Thyroid interaction affects bone metabolism. There's your bone metabolism connection. Parathyroid is a major organ that helps you to balance calcium in your system, in the bones and in the blood. Thyroid interactions, cardiovascular symptoms. One of the major symptoms of hyperthyroid is palpitations. One of the major things that somebody will get if they have elevated hyperthyroid, overactive thyroid, they get beta blockers to calm down the heartbeat. Thyroid affects, you get thyroid hormone receptor sites in the brain, gastrointestinal system, you get gastroparesis, which is a slowing down of the gastrointestinal system. It has a very slow transit time. Sometimes that can be because the thyroid isn't working so great. Gallbladder, gallstones. Most people that have gallstones have a problem with their thyroid because a slow, sluggish gallbladder can be caused by a slow, sluggish thyroid. Everything is sluggish and slow in your system when you have a low thyroid. And also it can affect the liver because thyroid, your liver makes cholesterol, right?
Right.
Your gallbladder helps get rid of it. So elevated cholesterol can be a thyroid problem.
So is all of this essentially diet-based?
No, but certainly diet is important. I know when I see people, I get a diet history from everybody when they come in to see me. Because I have to. I mean, I would expect when you come in to see me and I'm going to look at your diet history and I'm going to look at it and say, wow, this is really great. This doesn't have anything to do with what's going on with you. But if you bring it in and you're eating a Pop-Tart for breakfast and a candy bar for lunch and a piece of pizza for dinner, we need to talk.
Right.
I don't care what you're coming down here for.
Right.
So here's some of the things we were talking about. Why does autoimmune disease happen? There can be a genetic factor, like I said. And again, when I say genetics, I don't want you to kind of think, oh my God, or go get genetic testing. If you want to get the information, it's okay. But let's say you got the gene for something. Just because you have the gene, it doesn't mean that you're going to express that gene. You know, the gene ends up being expressed if you have other extenuating factors that make you more susceptible to have that gene expressed. And it can be environmental things, it can be emotional, mental factors, it can be really any kind of trigger. Antigen exposure. Antigens are critters. You know, viruses, bacteria, fungus, yeast. They can be a trigger for your immune system to start kicking in. Now, if environmental, chemical, stress response. Again, throwing your nervous system out of whack and the immune system out of whack and the hormones out of whack. Chemical exposure. And in chemical exposure, I'm going to throw in there gluten, okay? Gluten is something, if you have an autoimmune condition, you have to get off of gluten. I don't care what kind of autoimmune condition it is, but there's certainly literature out there. Most of it's case studies. A case study is you come to see me and you have these symptoms going on and I do this and these are the reactions to the treatment that I gave you and I publish that, that paper on you in the literature. Those are case studies. They're not randomized, double-blind, controlled studies with a whole bunch of people. It's a case study that somebody does. And there are many case studies out there where doctors have gotten their patients off of gluten and had things like Hashimoto's completely disappear, goes away.
What disappeared?
Hashimoto's. I went to a seminar a couple of months ago in North Carolina with some neurologists. They're actually functional neurologists. And there were doctors there that had seen their patients with ALS. You know what ALS is? ALS is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Most people know it as Lou Gehrig's disease. Okay. When you get a diagnosis of ALS, you got 3 years, you're gone, pretty much. So, case studies, people got off gluten, the ALS went away.
Gone?
Yeah. Yeah, survived. So, I'm not saying that that's going to happen for everybody that gets off gluten, but hey, it's worth it, isn't it? Now, the literature is very clear that there's you can go on PubMed and punch in Hashimoto's and gluten. You see many studies in there on gluten and Hashimoto's. There's this thing called cellular mimicry.
Cellular what?
Cellular mimicry. So in other words, your gluten sometimes will mimic the thyroid tissue. It has a lot of there's some tissue similarities with gluten and thyroid tissue. And so if your immune system is fired up to attack thyroid and you eat stuff with gluten and it fires that immune system up even more because of the similarity of the gluten to thyroid tissue, that it can increase the response against your thyroid hormone.
The stress response, is that for, that's just one of the possible things?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting because the adrenal cortisone things, that when I was reading about it, I tried to tell my sisters, I'm like, this is actually, when people say sticks and stones, that knaves will never harm me, if you have somebody who's causing you to be in a flight or fight environment all the time, and your stress response is usually, adrenal and cortisone, and you're producing them too much, that's where the imbalance comes in, and eventually, yes, it can kill you. Essentially, somebody who's being verbally abusive to you can give you that disease.
We can go a little bit deeper than that a little bit. And the other disease was Addison's disease. Addison's disease is low adrenal gland function, and that was the one that Jack Kennedy had during Addison's disease. So he used to have to get shots of cortisone every day. And the other one, the overfiring one, is the Cushing's disease, and that's probably the one that your mom had. But nobody makes us do anything. I mean, it's really a stress response is really the way that we perceive whatever is going on in our life, and we can choose to respond any way that we want. We don't have to be a robot that has to respond the same way because the same button is pushed all the time. So, you get 5 different people and, the same exact thing happens to them. One person, ignores it, another one runs away from it, another one transforms it into an opportunity for spiritual growth, another one becomes an axe murderer, right? So, there's different responses that we can have. So, that's that's the August 12th. Actually, this one is on the website already, the one on anxiety and depression. You really want to watch that one, and I did a good job on that with the filming too. But there was a really good case. Yeah, it's August 12th. Anxiety and depression, chasing blues. So I talk in that about a method that I use to be able to clear away the emotional charge that people have to certain situations that happen in their immediate environment that were caused really from prior programming. And it's not sit down, talk it out therapy. You have your hand raised? No? Chicken. And then environmental's a big deal. You know, like I said, we have 84,000 different chemicals in our environment that have never had anything to do with the human experience, and our body has to try and sift its way through all that stuff that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So it's got to throw things off. Some of those things they're called xenoestrogens, just to give an example. And xenoestrogens, they look like, they feel like in your body like estrogens, but they come from, you know, plastics in the environment, and so you can get all kinds of hormonal imbalances because of exposure to these xenoestrogens, methylparabens, endocrine imbalances. So why does it all happen? It can happen from any of these things. Okay, there's the gluten one here. Any of these things, GI infections. Pregnancy is interesting. When a woman is pregnant, and if she's going to have Hashimoto's, it's interesting that while she's pregnant, she'll be a Th2 dominant Hashimoto's person, the one that's making the antibodies. And after the delivery, they can shift into a Th1 dominant person, because the Th1 does what? That's the one that goes after the critters and attacks things, you know. So you want to, I guess, you know, nature in its infinite wisdom said, I don't want things in this woman that are attacking things that are foreign objects. So I'll make these antibodies. It'll be a Th1 dominant, and then you convert it to a Th2 dominant, and convert it to a Th1 dominant. Yeah, kind of interesting. Iodine's kind of an interesting one. Iodine's very useful if you have a goiter. You know, you have an enlarged thyroid gland. It can take. That's one of the reasons that we started putting iodine in the salt, because people in the Midwest didn't have exposure to seafood and they weren't getting iodine, so they had a big tendency to develop goiters. So we started putting iodine in the salt, and it can be very helpful for that. But iodine is a two-edged sword. If you have an autoimmune condition, well, you need a little bit of iodine. If you get too much iodine, it'll fire up your immune system again to start attacking the thyroid gland. It's called a Jod-Basedow, B-A-S-E-D-O-W, Jod-Basedow phenomenon. And it's where your immune system is fired up by iodine to attack the thyroid gland. And a little note there on the gluten. If you have a problem with, you have Hashimoto's and you eat gluten, that gluten can fire up your immune system to keep attacking the thyroid for another 6 months. So if you have Hashimoto's, if you have a thyroid problem, if you have any autoimmune problem, you gotta just get off gluten. You gotta be a monk with that.
Yes.
And once you start doing that kind of a diet, it's not really difficult. It really isn't difficult. You can survive very nicely without eating Ezekiel carried across the desert on the back of Moses' bread.
Ezekiel doesn't have gluten in it?
Yeah, it does.
It does?
It's got spelt in it, and it's got wheat.
Spelt is gluten? I
Yeah.
thought gluten was just over-processed wheat.
No,
Oh.
no. The amber ways of grain don't exist anymore. They don't exist
I
anymore.
eat tortillas.
The grain, what they've done with the wheat is they've hybridized it, and so
Yes.
that wheat plant is about 1.5 feet high now.
Yes.
And it's got a whole bunch of different wheat berries on it. It's not the
It's a
same
very
plant
different
as the
animal.
amber waves of
Right.
grain out there anymore. And that plant has a ton more gluten than this one ever had. I have patients that you know, have a response to gluten, maybe not an autoimmune type of response, but they have a reaction to gluten. They go to Italy and they have pasta in Italy, they find,
Right.
because they use the amber waves of grain over there. They don't use these hybridized things
Right.
anymore. It's not genetically modified, it's hybridized, which we've been doing for centuries, hybridizing different plants, right? But this one is completely a different plant than this one ever used to be.
So
if
you gotta move to Italy.
Yeah,
me too.
if you were to find pasta on the shelf
was
here, this
different
from
over
Italy
there.
would be sent to you then?
That if it was what? If it was from Italy?
Imported from Italy?
If you had a sensitivity to gluten, no. If you had celiac disease, forget about it. You're off gluten for life.
Any kind of gluten.
And that's a cure. The cure for celiac disease is don't eat gluten.
Well, I
If you don't
did I
eat gluten, you'll be fine.
misunderstand when
Yeah.
you said in Italy, they don't have a problem with gluten.
No, I'm saying, I'm not, no. They have gluten. Gluten is in the product. And gluten is in wheat, is a natural consequence of the product. It's part of the product. The
Okay.
natural part of wheat is
Okay,
gluten.
so you just can't, okay.
Yeah. Now, if you have a mild sensitivity to gluten, then the one, this plant is going to give you much more trouble than this one here. And this one in Italy, that's the one that they use.
So when you make a recipe that says it's gluten-free and it tells you to use brown rice flour, is that actually gluten-free?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'm sure it has some other issue, but.
Yeah, the main ones that you're going to look at for gluten are wheat, rye, barley, and oats is controversial. If you forget about Quaker Oats has got rampant with gluten because they transport it on the same trucks as they transport you know, the wheat and the barley and the rye and all that stuff. But wheat, I mean, oats naturally doesn't have gluten in it. So if you want to eat oatmeal, you want to be gluten-free, you can get the McCann oats at Publix. It's in the gold can on the top shelf, and the steel-cut oats. And that comes from Ireland. They only transport it on trucks that transport oats. They don't transport it on any other.
Fresh milk, it has the raw oats, gluten-free.
Yeah,
also.
right, fresh
Yeah.
market too, yeah.
And healthy.
So there's actually no wheat anymore that's gluten-free, no like organically raised?
Gluten-
No.
Wheat was never gluten-free.
Oh,
It
What
is
about flax?
made out of gluten.
Flax crackers?
Um,
They say it's gluten-free.
Yeah, if they say it's gluten-free, then it has to be gluten-free.
Right,
Um,
hopefully.
Now, here's another fly in the ointment. There are this cross-reactivity sometimes. You can have if you have a sensitivity to gluten, you can have a cross-reactivity partially for that cellular mimicry thing that I was talking about. So I've had people with problem with gluten, and they also have a problem with quinoa.
With what?
Quinoa.
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 Yeah.
Or you know, some other type, even rice, which is generally considered hypoallergenic.
Right.
So you can't have that stuff. And there are tests, there are blood tests that you can do to find out if you have cross-reactivity reactions. So you can test for anything.
There's a blood test for that too?
Yeah.
for what?
For
To see if
cross-reaction.
you have cross-reactivity
Oh.
to gluten. If you have a problem with gluten, there are other substances that you may have a problem with also that would mimic the gluten reaction.
Do the insurance pay for any of these blood tests?
Not if I write them. Unless your insurance policy covers acupuncture, then they might cover the tests. But the tests aren't that most of the tests that I'm talking about, well, the test for the TH1, TH2, that's kind of expensive. That's probably the most expensive one. But I belong to a co-op, and co-op is doctors all over the country belong to the co-op. Because we belong to the co-op, I get it much cheaper than you'd be able to get. So I wanted somebody to have that blood test done one time, and I wrote the script out for her. She said, "Oh, I'm going to just take it down to Quest Laboratories, and because my insurance will cover it if I bring it down to Quest." I said, "I don't think they will." I think it was Medicare. She thought her Medicare would cover it because she had some kind of secondary or supplemental. So I said, "I don't think it's going to happen." So she brought it down. Now I get that test for, I think it's about $400. The test for the TH1, TH2 dominant stuff. She brought it and had the lab run the test. They ran the test, so they wanted to get paid for it. Medicare sent her a bill for $1,900.
That's ridiculous.
So, I get it cheaper.
Right. I have a question about this GI infection.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Well, GI, it's a big deal. GI is 75% of your immune system resides in your gut. Yeah, the gut is a major immune system organ. And so if this is making too many of those interleukins that we talked about, too many inflammatory substances, if you have GI infections, it also can make you have a leaky gut. So a leaky gut is, when I say, you okay with that, what I'm talking about? See, when I say leaky gut is kind of like what it sounds like.
Your what?
It's kind of like what it sounds like. It's where your small intestine has little holes in it because you've been exposed to inflammation. So you have these little holes in your small intestine, and the function of your small intestine is to take food and extract all the nutrients out of your food. That's where you get all your nutrients come from the small intestine when you eat the food. And if you have inflammation there, it can make the little holes that will take the nutrients, like when you're breaking down the food into nutrients. You know, there's small holes there that are supposed to let those nutrients get through and get into the bloodstream. You absorb it through your intestinal wall, and those substances get into your bloodstream, and that's cool. Well, if those holes get to be too big because of inflammation, then food, not nutrients, but food, cucumbers. You get cucumbers in your blood, you're going to have a fired up immune system that's going to go and attack cucumbers. So now you start to have an immune reaction to cucumbers. So you develop allergies and sensitivities to things that you never had allergies to before because of a leaky gut. So to make that even more insidious, if you have a leaky gut, you're going to have a leaky brain. You have this membrane in your brain that separates your brain blood from the rest of the body blood, because you don't want all of these substances that are in your blood to be getting into your brain also, because we have a lot of toxic substances in our blood, right, in the body. So we have this blood-brain barrier, and it protects your brain from being exposed to things that it shouldn't be exposed to, like metals.
Right.
And
How do they fix it?
you have to use things that are going to be anti-inflammatory to calm down the inflammatory response. And where does the inflammatory response come from? It's part of your immune system. So you get the immune system calmed down.
And you can help.
Yeah. I don't think I'd stand up here and tell you all this stuff and say good luck. Good luck.
So you just don't eat it.
Well, you can eat, but you want to naturally try and eat things in as close to their natural state as they were created when you were out there running around the jungle.
Clean food.
You know, clean food.
Yes.
You know, if it's in a package, it's probably not okay. If it's been processed, it's probably not okay. So you try and eat things in as natural a state as you can get them. And I mean, there's such a morass of misinformation out there, isn't there? I mean, does it make sense for you to be out there climbing around and climb up the tree and get the eggs out of the nest and take the yolk, take the egg down and separate the yolk from the white? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's not how we were created. We were created to eat the egg. But the egg was created for us to eat.
So should we eat the whole egg, or should we do something else with it?
No, you eat things in as natural a state as
Right.
you can get it.
I thought so, yeah, but okay, now.
Yeah, you wouldn't, I'm just trying to say that when you get lost in the whole morass of misinformation that's
Yes.
out there, just put yourself in the place of being a primitive person out there running around. And
See an apple, eat the apple.
what are you going to find?
Right,
You know,
I'm so sorry.
you're not going to find
Yes.
smart balance. You're going to find butter.
Yes,
Might be made from yak milk or buttermilk or cow milk or buffalo
it's
milk.
okay.
But you know, you're going to find butter. You're not going to find. I can't believe it's not butter.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
What is your thought on the acid alkaline thing, balance in your body?
You know, you're supposed to have acid, stomach acid, right? Hydrochloric acid, essential fatty acids, and ribonucleic acid, and ribonucleic acid, DNA. We have acids that are part of our system. It's about the balance of things. So you eat a balance of things, and you should be fine. If you go try and make yourself too alkaline, you're going to be in trouble. If you try and make yourself too acidic, then you're going to be in trouble. So things like a balanced diet. What's a balanced diet? That's looking at it from the acid-alkaline balance. Proteins are more acidic, like eggs and meat and fish and protein type things. Those are more acidic to the body. Fruits and vegetables are alkaline. So you eat meat and fruits and vegetables and that kind of stuff. What really skews it the other way is grain. Grains are acidic, and that will throw the balance off.
I'm just, last week, or 2 weeks ago, there was a Wall Street Journal article on confirming that 15-year, noise, that cancer can't live, that Johns Hopkins University just admitted that they've known for 15 years that cancer cannot actually live in an alkaline environment.
And what's one of the major things that throws the blood into an acidic environment?
The what?
What's one of the major things that throws blood into an acidic environment? Sugar.
Right.
Yes.
Cancer cells live on sugar.
Yeah.
They love sugar. So it's about balance, really. And that's one of the major selling points of Kangen water. It alkalinizes your body. Well,
Dr. Danny,
Yeah.
I went online and you can get charts, a list of
Yeah.
foods that are
foods are alkaline.
high
foods
in
are-
alkaline
Yeah.
and some that are high in
Right.
acid.
Yeah.
So you can get a feel for it that way.
Right, yeah, and so, you balance things. You have some acidic food, you have some alkaline food. You want to be a little bit more alkaline? Well, you can do some, you can do juicing for a week or so. Yeah.
You also said that sugar makes your cholesterol go up.
Yeah, the first reason people have elevated cholesterol is insulin resistance or diabetes. The second one is hypothyroid. The next one after that is a diet high in refined carbohydrates. Next one after that is pancreatic dysfunction, then is liver dysfunction, and then kidney dysfunction, and then pregnancy, and then family history, and steroids. The first 3 out of 4 reasons why people have elevated cholesterol have to do with sugar. The only one in there that's not is thyroid. So, insulin, resistance, diabetes. Number 2 is thyroid. Number 3 is diet high in refined carbohydrates, sugar, sweets, carbs, starches, rices, pastas, breads, cereals, grains. The next one is pancreatic dysfunction. Pancreas, diabetes, sugar, insulin. It's another sugar deal, right? So it's so what's missing on that whole list that I just ran through? What's missing? Nothing in there that has anything to do with butter, eggs, meat, or fat as far as raising your cholesterol. It's the sugars. Where is that? That's the, let's talk about your heart workshop. August 5th.
Do you think I get a book? I got a $20 here.
Yeah, I'll get you a book. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, we talked about this. The question of why do we get these immune problems is really unimportant. Once you get it, it's not really important why it happened now. What's important is to get that immune system calmed down. And we talked about this, that you modulate the immune system, try and balance those each two systems, and try and do anything to get rid of any of the stressors in your body. Stress is going to be the major thing that's going to drive your immune system crazy, right? And stress does come in 3 flavors, by the way.
Husbands, kids.
Actually, one of the other workshops I have, I listed it as the main cause of stress is men. So it's mechanical, physical stress, and emotional stress, and nutritional and environmental stress. But yeah, physical stress, mental, emotional stress, chemical stress, those are the three. You know, you fall down, you get whacked, you have an operation, you work too hard, you work out too hard, you don't go to sleep. There's, you know, you can start an autoimmune condition by having a head trauma. Just an injury to the brain. Remember, 9/10 of the brain is immune cells. The mental emotional stress is going to throw your whole endocrine system out of whack and make you more susceptible to the 84,000 chemicals that are out there that we're exposed to. You see what I mean? It's just so much that we just get inundated, and sometimes it can be that little bit of stress that throws us out and makes us susceptible to that stuff. Makes those genes kick in that might not have kicked in if we hadn't had that stress in our life. And then the chemical stressors. So the gift is the opportunity to come down, and if you want to bring your blood work down, whatever you have, I'd be happy to sit with you and go over it. But, you know, I'd be happy to sit with you and talk for, 15, 20 minutes, and so you don't have to blab your stuff out and tell it to everybody else. And it won't cost you a dime, just down. I hope I answered all your questions. And I'm happy you came.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See, what's good about